It's the 1st November entry. Today is Sunday the 4th of November, and after a very exciting and dramatic week, this was kind of an anti-climax. Also, I'm just getting over a cold, which I guess was pretty well timed. I started feeling sick just after the last class on Thursday because I didn't have to go into legal process on Friday because it was online. And I started feeling sick that evening, and I was really annoyed because I'm like, I have been so careful because I did not want to risk getting sick. But I guess no matter how careful you are, you still get sick. Still not too bad timing, as I feel like I'm almost back to normal and I wouldn't have missed any class. So that's pretty good. A couple of things that happened at the end of last week to talk about that didn't make the video. As I was leaving campus on the previous Friday, there was someone walking around asking people if they took a course for their LSAT, and I just chimed in, and he and I ended up talking for about maybe 20 minutes to half an hour just about the LSAT in general, and it was cool to talk about something that I feel experienced in and knowledgeable about, as opposed to all this stuff in law school, which is all brand new every step of the way. So that was fun, and I know he got something out of it, and that was neat. Also something from the previous week, my friend Emily is one of the editors of the student newspaper, and she was writing an article about mental wealth, which says law school survival tips from the inside, and I contributed something, so this is my quote, and tell me if you think this doesn't sound like me. Law school is the ultimate superposition of total hell and the best thing ever. When things become lopsided and slanted to the bad end of the spectrum, remember that the other end of the spectrum is always with you too. Stay balanced and remember in those dark moments that the big picture is bright. And so that was cool. I'm officially in the student newspaper. But also, Emily is always looking for content, and she did talk me into writing an article for the newspaper this week. And I decided to write an article about backup because I see so many people producing so much original content in their reading notes or their lecture notes, and I want to make sure that they're doing what they need to be backing up their data. So I guess this is the least I can do as a computer scientist to help them out with that. And something else for the newspaper as well, but we'll see about that for next week. So this week, in terms of academics, the first thing that happened was the criminal midterm, and this one was a really straightforward in-class exam. It was the most, I don't want to say easy or simple, but it was the most straightforward of all of the exams so far. I felt like the tools that I put together to do the criminal midterm was easy enough to figure out, all right, what is the charge? Is there a, what's the arguments for causation? How does it work? And can I reason out my arguments? There was some regulatory offense stuff in there as well, and it actually didn't seem too bad. So that was pretty easy. And then after that, it was almost like everyone in the class let out a collective sigh of relief because that was the last assessment until almost exam season now. So as much as the drama was being built up, all of these midterms, all this work to do, then all of a sudden it was like, oh, now it's over. And we received our torts midterms back. Actually, only I and a few other people got our torts midterms back because, as I mentioned last week, we didn't take it up right away. And if you wanted to, you could produce a hard copy of your torts midterm and hand it in to the torts professor's office, and she would go through them and take them up together in class. And what she did do is actually, if you did provide a hard copy, she would actually go through and add some notes. And I was lucky enough to get some notes back, and it seems like I was pretty okay. There's not much really serious that's on there, so I think I just have to keep being clear and concise about what I write, because it seems to be that the big theme is there's so much information, so many different things that you could say about an argument, but the best thing to do is just be clear about it and be focused and type as much as you can in that allotted time period and get out. And I guess that's pretty much it. Speaking of finished work, I think one of the problems I've noticed about distractions is that it is so tempting to look at these completed bits of work. So either my torts midterm, or now my criminal midterm, or even way back to my contracts midterm. When there's something else to do, I find I really want to just look at something I have already finished, whether I'm like entirely happy with it or not to edit it or do anything. I just like looking at it. And it's just, when there's so much to do, when there's so much work that needs to be done, it's just such a nice procrastination distraction just to look at something finished. Like, oh, isn't that lovely? But it's a big waste of time, and I need to remind myself every time I open something that's finished, like, put that away and work on something that needs to be done. But speaking of work, the interesting thing coming up next week is it's actually our reading days next week. It's not reading week. Thursday and Friday are technically the reading days. But during all of the last week, there's been, like, one by one, I feel like classes have been dropping like flies. First, legal process would say, oh yeah, we're not going to have tutorial on Tuesday, or state and citizen would say, I'm not going to have class next week, and criminal would say, I'm not going to have class on Wednesday, and a mandatory session that was on Wednesday has been moved to Monday. This is for the career development office, and like, wow, all of a sudden I only now have classes on Monday and Tuesday, so it's almost as though I do have a reading week. And it's interesting to compare what different people are doing in preparation for that reading week, because what people have said is that the people who seem to be doing well now, so if you're doing okay in your midterms as they come back, tend to kind of like come off the gas a little bit and say, okay, I'm doing okay. But then you've got the people who are basically gunning for you, because it's like, okay, well, I didn't do so well in my midterms, I need to work extra hard. So during reading week, there's been a variety of people that are planning on doing basically all of the readings for the rest of the semester, which I think might be impossible, even if you read everything all day. But I could see why people are trying to do it. I'm going to do my best to try and catch up on State and Citizen. It is the course that has definitely fallen the worst behind, because there hasn't been any midterms. It has been the one I haven't needed to have any deliverable for. So as a result, it kind of always sinks to the wayside. And it'd be great to shore up my knowledge of all of those courses from pre-midterm material, and then keep working in my outlines to get ready for the exams, because now that's the next thing that's happening. So I guess you'll have to wait and see what I say at the end of next week about how my reading week turned out. But right now my plan is to do a lot of work to get caught up, and basically just to be ready for the rest of the semester, because we're halfway through now. Like, exams are coming up in December, and it is now November, so we're on the final stretch almost, it seems, and I can't believe we got here so quickly. Alright, so that's the end of my less than dramatic week, and I'll end off by having a few comments from my viewer mail. First, I want to say to Paul and Michelle, thank you for always watching my video on your TV. You've said you moved the video up onto the TV on the Chromecast to watch it. If you're watching this there now, thank you. Hi, glad you're watching. Also, Michelle, and to Vanessa, thanks for remarking about the editing in the previous week's video. That was the first video I actually needed to edit because it was just too long. There was so much that happened. The first run through was 20 minutes, and I try to do these videos with one take and no editing so that I limit the amount of time that this exercise actually takes. So thanks for remarking upon the good editing. Kayla, you even said that I managed to splice in some edits in the middle of a hand gesture, and you wouldn't have noticed the changes if the lights had stayed the same. So thanks for that. And also to Sophie and Vanessa, I just want to say thank you for your feedback about how I stood up to my contracts professor. That was really valuable to me, and I still feel good about that, and I still I'm glad with how things ended at the previous week. So that's the end. I'm gonna do a little bit more reading here, and then probably take an early night. Oh, it's daylight savings. It's the first day of daylight savings, which actually means this clock is wrong. So I am now going to see what I feel like as the sun is going to be different, because I have actually been experiencing a need for some light early in the morning, because I'm waking up earlier than I ever did before. So having light in the morning never really was something I was in hot demand for, but maybe it is now. So we'll see. Anyway, hopefully I'll be 100% tomorrow, and this sickness will be away. But inconvenient, but not the worst timing. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.